class 12 economics. So we are dealing with introduction macroeconomics and we are in chapter 4, which is determination of income and employment. So far we have studied various things in macroeconomics, like we have studied what is macroeconomics in chapter 1, the introduction chapter. Second one was national income accounting, where we studied the various methods or techniques to calculate the GDP or national income. Right children, in the third chapter we discussed about money and banking. Even though there were some deleted portions, still we came through what is that. Just for a gist of knowledge, we just came through what are the terms that are mentioned there, like SLR, CRR, repo rate, open market operations, all those things, just for your knowledge base. Now we are in chapter 4, which is the determination of income and employment. How is it going to affect macroeconomics also is what we are discussing now. In that, as of now, we have completed studying about the aggregate demand and its components. The components are consumption and investment. Right, so we have discussed about exposed values and ex ante values. Exposed means what is actually incurred, whereas ex ante means what is planned. Okay, what is planned? Whereas when we talked about consumption, we had two different things called autonomous consumption and induced consumption. Autonomous consumption means whatever happens, like whether the income changes, whether it increases or decreases, even if the income is zero, there will be some consumption happening, which is called as the autonomous consumption. That is, it does not have any relationship or it does not depend on the change in the income level. That is called autonomous autonomous consumption. When we talked about induced consumption, it depends on the level of income. That is, if there is a change in income, then the change in the consumption also will be experienced. That is called as induced consumption. When we spoke about investment, we discussed that every year a particular amount is spent for investment. So hence we take investment as autonomous investment only. And it is only ex ante value. That is what we are planning, is what we have discussed. Further, we have spoken about MPC, MPS, APC and APS. So the definitions also we have discussed. In the previous video session, we have discussed about the two-sector model. What is a two-sector model, children? We have only the households and firms in this model. Okay, what is a model? It is a theoretical tool for understanding economical theory. That is why we have a model. So in this two-sector model, we have only households and firms. Government has no role to play in this particular kind of model. Fine. So what are the other things we discussed in this two-sector model? We discussed that households will give the factor, they'll contribute towards the factors of production, whereas they receive factor payment from the firms. What does the firm do? Households will buy the products, goods and services given by the firms, and in turn they pay for this particular goods and services. That is how we saw the two-sector model. After that, what happens? The households, they concern with saving, whereas firms, they go with investments in whatever amount they have. We have discussed various things, and then we spoke about what happens when government expenditure is also taken. And finally, we discussed that for a simple understanding, we are going to have only the two-sector and we are not going to talk about government expenditure in this particular chapter. For what? For easy understanding and better understanding of this particular determination of income and employment, we are going to deal with only households and firms. That is what we have done. Fine. Today what are we going to discuss in this particular chapter? We are going to discuss about the determination of equilibrium income in the short run. Okay, we are in chapter 4, and what are we going to discuss? We are going to discuss about the determination of equilibrium income in short run. Okay, so what do we mean by equilibrium? A balanced one. It's not more, it's not less. It's a balanced one. That is what we are going to determine here. According to this particular particular determination. How are we going to understand it? Here the demand and supply curves simultaneously determine the equilibrium price and the equilibrium quantity. Where in microeconomic theory, last time we discussed microeconomics, right? In microeconomic theory, what happens? The equilibrium price and the equilibrium quantity, the curves of equilibrium price and equilibrium quantity. So for a particular good, what is the quantity, how much quantity is produced and what is the price, that was studied in microeconomic theory. Demand and supply curves, they discussed about the equilibrium price and equilibrium quantity. Okay, because based on the price only you will decide what? The demand, whereas the supply goes with the quantity. So the supply, the demand and supply curves were talking about determines the equilibrium price and equilibrium quantity. What are we going to do it in macroeconomic theory, in macroeconomic terms? How are we going to understand it? So here we work out a macroeconomic equilibrium, taking the price level as fixed. Here there was a change. But in macroeconomic theory, what are we going to do? We are going to take it as a price as fixed price. So what happens in macroeconomic theory? We have fixed price. Okay, what happens? What is the next step here? The first stage we do this. Second stage, what we are going to do? We are going to change the price. Okay, we allow the price level to vary and again. This is the first level, that fixed price. Second level is varied price. So we are going to discuss, we are going to analyze, we are going to compare between what? How it is macroeconomic equilibrium, how it is when the price is fixed and when the price is varying. Why are we going to do this? Why we are going to have two reasons to have such an equilibrium. Why? Because first stage we are assuming an economy to be the price fixed economy, a fixed price economy, because already we have machineries, already we have buildings, we have all the capital goods. Since we have the capital goods, we are not going to change the prices. Same production, we are not buying, we are not procuring any capital goods, so there is no prosperity of increasing the price of a product. That is the first reason. First stage we are determining like that. Why? Because the capital goods are there, they have the unused resources, so there is no change in the price. Additional input was not needed, so there is no need of price. Second thing, this is just a simplifying assumption which will be changed later. We are taking it just for an assumption. It is a simplifying assumption which will be changed later. What is a simplifying assumption? That we are not procuring any capital goods in the following years. Only 1 year we have got it. So we keep it price fixed. But it changes later. Why? Because we can change it later, because there is a thing like we can go for more capital goods. Children, get it clear? What is the determination? How do you determine equilibrium of income in short run is what we are going to discuss. First, in microeconomics, what did we study about equilibrium? It is balance, and the demand and supply curves spoke about the equilibrium price and the equilibrium quantity. That is, it is balanced. It has not changed. It is stagnant. Okay, when we talk about it in macroeconomics, at the first stage, what do? We find the equilibrium income on the basis of a fixed price. Okay, how it is going to be related is what we are going to discuss later. But first we need to know what is that particular equilibrium price, macroeconomic equilibrium at a fixed price and then at a varied price. These two things we discuss in detail. Why are we having this assumption? Because this is first thing we are not going to procure. We have an assumption that the capital goods remain the same. We are not adding anything to the unused resources. So the price remains same is the first assumption. Second reason is that it is a simplifying assumption and you can change it at any time where you go with the changed prices. Okay, there is an increase in the price now and then. It's what we are going to discuss now. Okay, so first what are we going to do? Macroeconomic equilibrium with price level fixed. Okay, so we are going to discuss macroeconomic equilibrium with the first condition of what? With price level fixed. Right. In this we are going to use various methods to understand it. First we are going to talk about graphical method. Okay. That is we are going to use a graph to understand. How are we going to understand it? As already explained, what did we already explain about the consumption expenditure or the consumer's demand? How did you explain it? C is equal to C dash plus C of Y. That is the autonomous expenditure and the in-use expenditure. This is what you have already discussed. Right. How are we going to present it? Is what we are going to discuss in this graphical method. C is the autonomous consumption expenditure and CY is what? The marginal propensity to consume. Which one? The small c is the marginal propensity to consume. In other terms, induced consumption is what we have discussed. How can you draw this? How can you present it? So that you use a scale and pencil to draw it. I am just doing it in a rough way. So you have marked the x-axis, y-axis as usual, and then so this is the intercept value. What do you call it? The intercept value, where it's 0 at prices. Okay, and here you have the formula like y is equal to a plus this. Okay, an equation, and this is theta. Okay, I hope you have studied all these in maths. Theta. Now, how do you mention it with the consumption function? Here, see, intercept form of the linear equation is found. We are using which form? Intercept form of linear equations, which is y is equal to a plus bx. And here the variables are what? X and y. X and y are kept as the variables. So here when we are doing it with this function, it will change. How it will change? We are going to discuss that. And there is a linear relation between A and B. What is there? There is a linear difference or a linear relation between A and B, and they are constants. A and B are what? Constants. That is, they don't change. Okay? In linear equations, you use it along with the variables, right? 2x plus 3y means 2 and 3 are constants and x and y are variables, we say. Right, that is in a formula like 2x plus 3y, if you have it. These two are constants. These two, how do you call? Constants. That is, x can be 1 at one point and y can be 0 at one point. Next time, x can be 0 and y can be 1. That is, these two vary. That's why they are called variables. Whereas again and again you will substitute in the same linear equation and these values do not change. That's why they are called as constants. So here which are constants? A and B are constants and x and y are variables. Right, children? And what? This equation only is depicted in that figure 4.1 in your book. And the constant A is shown as the intercept on the y-axis. when x is 0. Okay, x remains to be 0, but what is the value of y? It changes, right? That is called as a. That is the constant a. Right. So the constant b is the slope of the line. That is tangent theta is equal to b. Okay, tangent theta is equal to b. Tan theta you say, right? Same. Now the consumption function. What are we going to do with this consumption function and the investment function in graphical representation is what we are going to discuss now. So first what we have done, we have come to know how do you graphically represent a linear equation, that to intercept form of linear equation. Now already you know a consumption function. How do you change the same linear equation, intercept form of linear equation? How will you do it for the consumption function? This is your consumption function. So how it becomes the same thing, but this will become as, this constant will become as c dash. Okay, instead of a you have to c dash, and here it changes, the slope changes as c is equal to c dash plus c of y. It changes like this, and instead of theta it becomes alpha. Okay, so here which is the intercept? This is the intercept, that is the c dash is the intercept, which is the consumption function. Intercept of the consumption function is this particular thing. This is how you depict consumption function on the intercept form of linear equation. On a graphical representation you present it like this. Fine children, now how do you present? So this is consumption function. Do you remember the investment function? I is equal to I dash. The only the autonomous investment. So investment function is I is equal to I dash. How do you present it? So how do you draw it? Here it will just be a parallel line. Here it will be a parallel line. That's it. Because what do we say here? It is autonomous, and every year something is given. It is a fixed price. Consumption function changes. That's why there is a slope. Whereas here investment function, we say that it is fixed. That is why it remains as a parallel line. It is constant. That is why we kept it as a parallel line. Okay, there are two sources of final demand in the two-sector model. What are they? Consumption and investment. So investment function is shown as how y is equal to I dash, and this is shown as an horizontal line. I is autonomous because it is the same. Whatever is the income, there is no matter, no change in I bar. That is why you keep it as a straight horizontal line. That is why it stays parallel to this particular thing, and here it changes the x-axis and y-axis, we change it. This is income. This parallel to the income, and here it is consumption and investment expenditure. So what are the various things we have discussed in the graphical method? We have discussed about the intercept form of linear equation, and then in that using intercept form of linear equation we have the graphical method. We have consumption function and investment function and how the graph changes. Okay, this is what we have discussed so far. Next, what are we going to discuss? We are going to discuss about the aggregate demand. How aggregate demand will be shown using a graphical representation. So aggregate demand should be equal to the final output of goods is what we have seen. So that is how we are going to represent it in a graphical method. Okay. So what are the things we have discussed so far, children? We have discussed consumption function and investment function in graphical method. For what purpose? For macroeconomic equilibrium with price level is fixed. Here nowhere we have talked about price because we keep it as a fixed value. There is no change in price. That's why we did not talk anywhere about price level. Right children, what are we going to do next? We are going to talk about the aggregate demand, how it is going to change or how is it going to be presented using the graphical representation or graphical method. Okay, so here it shows a total demand, that is consumption plus investment. So total aggregate demand, what did we say? It is the total of consumption and investment. C plus I we saw, no, we had a very lengthy thing also. Aggregate demand is equal to, what did we see? E bar plus I bar plus E of Y. That is autonomous consumption plus autonomous investment. Investment expenditure itself is the same plus the induced consumption. This becomes the aggregate demand. That is the total consumption and the total investment will add up towards the aggregate demand. Clear? So graphically it means the aggregate demand function can be obtained vertically, adding the consumption and investment functions. That is, these two are there. No? When we combine both of this, it is said that we can come up for a aggregate demand. So how are we going to represent it? We are going to incorporate both these slopes here. One horizontal line and one slope here. So how are we going to represent it? Okay, so how are we marking it? And this horizontal line, which marks what? The investment function, which is I is equal to I bar. Then what we have? We have a slope. Right, that is, from here we mark means C is equal to, which one? C bar plus C of Y. So we have the investment function and we have the consumption function. Now when we add both of this, we will get another slope where it is above this and it goes like this. So this is the aggregate demand. How do you find the aggregate demand? This AD is equal to C bar plus I bar plus V of Y. So this is the investment, this is the consumption, and when you add both you will get another slope which is called as the aggregate demand. This is how you represent it graphically. So how are these points marked? We are taking these as L, J, M. So what is OM, what is OJ, what is OL is what we are going to discuss. This OM is there, right? This is C dash, already we saw. From here to here we have an intercept which is the C dash, the autonomous consumption. Then we have OJ, which is OJ from here to here. And that is the value of I dash, that is the investment expenditure. Now when we have OL, we should have the addition of OM plus OJ. When you have this addition, the value, that is, this is for example, this is 45 degrees, this is 15 degrees means you add it. Or if you take it in measurement of 10 centimeter, 5 centimeter, when you add it, you will get this particular value. For that, you will be marking it. Fine, like that you have to mark the slope. That is, what do you have to understand in this particular thing is, according to this graphical representation, the consumption and investment adds up to find the aggregate demand. That's it. Okay. So what is OL here? It is the addition of both. You can call it as OM plus OJ also will measure up to this particular value. Fine. So this is the aggregate demand. Now here there is one more thing that we have to talk about, which is called the parametric shift. Okay. What is a parametric shift? What is a parametric shift? Keep thinking, I am going to tell you in the next video. But still, before going on to the next video session, you have to try to find out what is parametric shift. Then you can refer whether it is one and the same. Okay, fine. Continuing with this particular topic, the aggregate demand function is parallel to the consumption function. That is, they have the same slope C. What? See, aggregate demand function is parallel to the consumption function. It looks like the same slope C only falls here. Okay, so it is what? Parametric shift or parallel shift. There are two things, children. Parallel shift and parametric shift. So what is parallel shift and parametric shift? You are going to find it out first. Okay, fine. So what is that? Aggregate demand is exactly parallel to this particular thing, which is the consumption, because both the slopes, they look same. And it may be noted that this function shows only the ex ante demand, that is the planned demand, and it is not the original thing. It is not whatever is already consumed or whatever is incurred. We are only talking about ex ante values and we are not going into the ex post values. Kindly keep remembering what is the difference between ex ante measures and ex post measures. Okay, what is the next thing that we are going to discuss? We are going to discuss about the supply side of the macroeconomic equilibrium. So far we were discussing only the demand part. Okay, aggregate demand, then how consumption works, how the investment works. With that, how do you find the aggregate demand? Everything fine in macroeconomic equilibrium level. Now we are going to talk about the supply side of the macroeconomic equilibrium level. Why should we talk about the supply side? Because we saw that the demand should be equal to the supply, that is the final output, whatever is produced, it should be equal, or it should meet the needs of people, it should meet the demand of the people, then only it will be good, then only we can call it an equilibrium level. So we are going to study about the macroeconomic equilibrium. Right, children? So what are we going to do next? The supply side. So far we have discussed the demand side. Next we are going to discuss the supply side. That is the final output of goods and services is there, right? How is it going to be in an equilibrium level is what we are going to discuss now. Okay? So it's not a tough topic. It is an easy topic only, but you need to concentrate into it. You need to study the text. You need to study each and every line of the text. Refer to the videos how it is taught. Take notes. Draw the graphs and see how it works out, so that you can understand it in a better way. It's not so tough, It's actually an easy topic only. I'm trying to break it down so much for your easy understanding. So kindly make use of it. Okay. So we are going to talk about the supply side of macroeconomic equilibrium. Fine. What are we going to do now? So in microeconomic theory, we have talked about demand and supply curves, right? So in macroeconomic theory also we are going to talk about the supply side. So in microeconomic theory, we show the supply curve on a diagram with price on the vertical axis and quantity supplied on horizontal axis. So how it was represented, the supply curve. So we had the price here and we had the quantity here. Then we drew a supply curve and showed what is the microeconomic theory of supply. This is how we represented in microeconomic theory. So what are we going to do in macroeconomics? In the first stage of macroeconomic theory, what did we do? We kept the price level as fixed. You remember? So in the first stage, what are we doing? We are keeping the price level as fixed. So aggregate supply or the GDP is assumed to smoothly move up or down since there are unused resources of all types available. So whatever is the level of GDP, that much will be supplied and price level has no role to play. So at the first stage, okay, we talk about studied whatever is the GDP, we keep the price to be fixed and the price has no role to play. Okay, whatever is the GDP, we keep the price to be fixed. So the curve moves either up or down. This kind of supply situation is shown by a 45-degree line. Now the 45-degree line has the feature that every point in it has the same horizontal and vertical coordinate. So how will you present the supply curve? Okay, so here you have the GDP and the income. Both are on the x-axis, and here we have the aggregate supply. You have a 45-degree slope. And how it is? At any stage you measure, the horizontal and vertical coordinates will meet at the same point. Is how it measures. How it measures? So for example, here the refer means this point will match with this coordinate. Okay, the x and y coordinates, both the x coordinates will meet at the same point. Anywhere you measure in the slope, this coordinate, the vertical axis coordinates and the horizontal axis coordinates will measure to be same. Which supply curve? This kind of supply curve where we have a 45-degree line. Here every point on it has the same horizontal, same horizontal and vertical coordinates. They all meet. So what is the example given here? Suppose GDP is rupees 1000 at point A. Then what is the GDP? It is 1000. What would be the supply? That will also be 1000. So this line is there, right? This only they have given as a dotted line, and this is termed to be the aggregate supply. This line. Fine, that is if the GDP, the production final output is 1000 goods, then the supply is also equal to be the same things. So how can the point be shown? The answer is that supply corresponding to point A. Okay, supply corresponding to point A is obtained here at point B. Okay, in the vertical axis, whichever coordinates it match, same thing in the horizontal line also it will match. That is the supply side of the macroeconomic equilibrium. How we study it? So we have the 45-degree line, which is the graphical representation here. So we take it that at any point we measure the x coordinate, that is the vertical axis coordinate will match the horizontal point. Okay, horizontal axis coordinate any level. That is if the whatever is the GDP, that much ever supply is given. That is if GDP is 1000, then the supply is also of rupees 1000. Fine. What are we discussing next? Equilibrium. We are talking equilibrium. So what we have to do? What is equilibrium? How are we going to study it in a graphical method is what we are going to discuss. So equilibrium is shown graphically by putting x anti-aggregate demand and x anti-supply. So already we discussed aggregate demands picture. Now what we are going to do? We are going to have the supplies picture also together with it, and we are going to mix both of it so that we are able to find the equilibrium point. So what are we going to do? The point where x anti-aggregate demand is equal to x anti-aggregate supply will be equilibrium. So we have measured, right? What did we measure? Aggregate demand is equal to C dash plus I dash plus C of Y. We have measured that. That is the demand. Along with that, we are going to add this supply line also in the same thing so that we can find a common point which is called as the equilibrium point. Okay, so how are we going to measure it? We are going to have it in another thing. So, talking about equilibrium. So, where supply curve meets the curve of aggregate demand, then it is called as this. So how do you present it? How did we have the aggregate demand curve? Above this line. Okay, we had a common line here. The investment expenditure line we had, okay, which was marked as L, right? So above or below, we are going to have from this intersect. Okay, and then we are going to have the supply curve, which is 45 degrees line, right? So it starts from here and it goes somewhere like this. Now here it means, right, both aggregate demand, this is aggregate demand and this is supply. Both of these things meet at a point, this point which is called the equilibrium point. This is the equilibrium point where aggregate demand curve and supply curve meets. That particular point is called as the equilibrium point. Okay, so what else is measured here? This is measured as alpha. Already we have measured it in the previous graphs. This is measured as M, and here this is the equilibrium point. Fine. And the equilibrium level of income is OY1. This is the equilibrium level of income, and this is the equilibrium point where aggregate demand and supply meets. So what level of income is incurred for this? This line is income line, right? So what level of income is applicable till here, from here to here, then that is called as equilibrium level of income. So far we have discussed completely about the algebraic method. What did we discuss? We have discussed completely about the graphical method. Next we are going for the algebraic method, which is very simple. Graphical method also was simple, right children? So what are the things that we studied in graphical method? We talked about intercept form of linear equation and how it was represented in a graph. Then further, how consumption function is represented graphically, how investment function is represented graphically. Finally, the aggregate demand, the total of both, how it is represented in graphical terms. And then finally, we have discussed about the supply side of macroeconomic equilibrium. Why did we do all these things? Then only we will be able to find the equilibrium point where demand meets supply and what is the equilibrium level of income. Okay, what is the next thing that we are going to do? We are going to use the algebraic method. So we know the ex ante aggregate demand. What is it? C dash plus I dash plus C of Y. Autonomous consumption plus investment expenditure plus induced consumption. All these three will become the ex ante aggregate demand. We know what is the ex ante aggregate supply or the income also, which is termed as Y. Okay? Which is termed as what? Y. It might look, with lots of graphs, if you open your book, lots of graphs are given, all those things. But when you look into it, when you study and compare to the text that you have studied with the concept of macroeconomic equilibrium, everything is very, very, very simple. So kindly go through all of these things and further look into the video again and again. Try to understand the concept, match it. If even then you find it a little difficult, of course, feel free to reach me out. Fine, as I say always, I'll be happy to help you out. Right, children? So we discussed, so far we have discussing about A, that is the graphical method. Now we are going into the algebraic method. Okay, children. So what did we talk about? Aggregate demand is C plus I bar plus C of Y. Fine. And the aggregate supply or the supply is termed as Y. And what is it? It is all whatever is planned, not whatever is commenced. Okay, how will you find it? Equilibrium requires that the plans of suppliers are matched by the plans of those who provide final demands in the economy, that is consumers. A businessman desires to produce 1,000 units of something, 1,000 units of soaps, means people should also have the demand of 1,000 units of soap. If not, the price or the products will go waste. Okay, so the demand should match the supply. Thus, in this situation, ex ante demand is equal to ex ante aggregate supply. This is how you have formulated this. How do you make it? When you equalize both of this, C dash plus I dash plus C of y is equal to capital Y. Okay? And how you bring it? Y into C point Y. Okay? Is equal to C dash plus I dash. Since Y is here, capital Y, already Y is here, so how are we going to change it? We are going to change it as Y, we are going to take it as common. Okay, Y minus 1 minus C. What is that? Consumption expenditure. Right, the small c. We have already seen it in MPC, APC. Fine. After that is equal to C bar plus A bar. Then how does it change? You bring it all to the same side. Y is equal to C bar plus I dash by 1 minus C. Okay. So finally you come to this as the equilibrium, that is bringing supply, ex ante aggregate supply to the ex ante aggregate demand, equalizing in the algebraic method. We are going to work out a problem using this particular formula in the next part, okay, in the next video session. So what is it? In the algebraic method, we know what is aggregate demand, then what is aggregate supply, both are ex ante values. Then you determine this particular formula by applying it, by equalizing it, and bringing forth one side. That is the income. Why the supply or the income alone is kept in one side, and the remaining consumption, expenditure, investment, everything is brought into another side for help of calculation. Fine. We are going to work out a problem related to this in the next class. Right, children? So please go through it again and again and try to understand the topic. If you are not able to still understand it, kindly reach me out and get your doubts clarified. Okay? Thank you, and may all have a good day today.